This is Adam King from Aliens Don't Ring Doorbells, and you're listening to Madness to Creation.
Go ahead, say it.
Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast, or self-care and music merge. This is Maddie. How are you? And this is a special Unsigned Sunday edition, which we are going to have. Our goal is at least every other week to highlight an artist that is strictly from the indie scene, or an unsigned artist, or it can be a local talent as well. And hopefully, we're going to have our first Small Business Saturday, where we highlight a couple of small businesses. So be on the lookout for Small Business Saturday edition of the Madness to Creation podcast. We want to give love to whether it's like a concert venue that's not very well known, or somebody that like just runs their own small business, finds their little niche and stuff like that, just to see how they've came through COVID and everything like that. And plus, we feel like corporations are highlighted way too much and stuff like that, and we want to give some love to the small business as well. And hopefully that'll allow us to pick up some sponsorship as well. And we have on this episode, we have Cassandra. But before I get into the episode, I want to talk to you about our schedule coming up. Tomorrow morning, we will be having yet another podcast interview with Mark Dean. He's conducting an interview with the Dadsons, which is a legendary band. And also, this Wednesday, mark this down, Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have Lawrence Gowan from the legendary band Styx. What a huge accomplishment that is for us. And not only that, it is just so cool having Lawrence Gowan on once again. He wasn't on this podcast, but we've interviewed him on the Madness Creation website and a previous website called MUM Magazine on several occasions. And in this episode, we talk a lot about mental health, and also Cassandra, how she handles her TikTok, her Instagram, and just her social media and stuff like that. So if you are an aspiring artist, take lessons from her on how to handle social media and how to be active and everything like that, how to be yourself when it comes to making videos on TikTok, or when it comes to making posts on Instagram. And you can find her on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Cassandra. And we're also going to talk about her music, Drinking Games and 21 Raging, and several other singles that she has out. And also how she gets in the songwriting process, and how her family supports her while she's traveling from her home in Florida to Nashville, Tennessee to record. And she is just a delightful person to talk to, and I really want to encourage you to give a follow. And also, I will be posting her Spotify link, and please give her a few streams. She has definitely earned it. So what I like about her music is heartfelt songwriting material, and it kind of mixes. One song might have a little bit country, one song might have a little bit rock and roll, but a song like 21 Raging is a total dance pop hit that you could hear in the club scene. And anyways, without further delay, here's our conversation with Cassandra. And also, please find this podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, JioSaavn, Google Podcasts, Podchaser and Podcast Addict. Take it away, Cassandra. Welcome to the Madness Creation podcast, with self-care and music merge. This is Maddie. How are you? Here I have with me is...
Hi, I'm Cassandra. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Cassandra. So how's your week going?
Week's going well. Busy as usual. I just dropped a song a couple of weekends ago. So still rolling out of that. And I actually just finished an opera too. So all busy, but all good things.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us about the song that you dropped a couple weeks ago.
So a couple of weeks ago, I dropped a song called Made for Me. And the hook line of the song is, I may not be made for you, I'm made for me. And it's really an anthem for anyone that's been a fighter or a floater and has had, for lack of a better word, haters, as cheesy as that might sound. But it's just kind of gone right through the storm and said, it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for me, and I'm doing it because it fulfills me. And that's enough. And so it's really, an anthem for anybody that wants to fight for what they want in their life, and stand up for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so critical that for our mental health and everything, that we fight for what we want and for our best life, and sometimes it's harder for people than others, I feel. Do you feel the same way too?
Absolutely. I think, everybody has their own adversity, and their own challenges that arise. And I think their own way of handling that as well. I don't think anybody has an easy path right up to wherever they want to be, right? There's always some sort of barrier that'll stop you along the way. So absolutely.
Yeah. And like, for example, like a barrier that has been tough for me recently is my dad is fighting cancer, and just going through like watching him go through the treatments, and just being at home on the weekends. Like, usually on the weekends it's my time to unwind, but I'm helping out, just being supportive where I can, and sometimes that I'm worn out. Like, I'm very worn out because and all that stuff. So do you have a time where you can think of, like, where you've had to rise to the occasion when it was a little bit difficult for you?
Absolutely. So many different times. I mean, I've had times within my family, where I've had, my grandmother was sick, or one of my parents was sick, and I've had to, even when I was younger than I am now, I mean, I'm 20 now, so I've been younger than that, dealing with those issues, and at the same time trying to stay present in my own life while being supportive. And I think especially when it comes to family, it's just what you do, right? I mean, family's family. At the end of the day, it's career is one thing, and career is wonderful, and so is social life and everything else. But if a family member is suffering, I'm under the mode of, if family member is ever suffering, drop it all, go help the family member, and your life will come back to wherever it was when you want to pick that back up. There's so many different ways of going about that, right? Because you can have a situation where it's perhaps easier. There were times that crazy things, like a family member of mine wasn't well, and so my mom was having to travel to go help her. And at the same time, I was in high school playing tennis, singing, and trying to get into college all at the exact same time. So I'm juggling all of those and traveling with my mom on the weekends to go help out a family member and everything else. And as challenging as it was, to a certain extent, the fulfillment of knowing, you're there and you're helping somebody, and you're helping not only the family member, but also supporting my mom while she was supporting the family member. And as taxing as it might be to take that time out and change your schedule, right? It's so rewarding to know that you're doing something for good. And I think that kind of outweighs the overall stress of that situation, for me at least.
Mm-hmm. I would agree 100%. It sounds like you're just an awesome family member. So tell me, so what does your family mean to you? Like, when you sit down and reflect on your family, what do they mean to you? Like, whether it's in your music career or like in your life?
Sure. My family's everything. They've been, my rock since I was born. I feel like there's a certain family value that, we're an Italian family. We're all very close. We're very close knit. And it's something wonderful that I've always appreciated, but I've appreciated even more, I think, over the past year. Especially look at this whole situation with COVID and how it's kept families apart for so long. And I'm very fortunate because our family was able to find ways to still see each other and be, properly quarantined and tested and, vaccinated and such as time went on. But when it really comes down to it, I think what's the most amazing thing for me about my family is that no matter the storm, no matter what happens, we always come back and support each other. A good example is I was studying a little bit of bio and chemistry. I was really planning to become a doctor for most of my life because it was that, whole stable career thing. You want to just go for that. I knew that I could go do that. And then I started studying opera. And I fell in love with singing. I mean, I had been studying opera my whole life, but I mean, I went to college for opera. I didn't end up going. I was planning on doing a dual degree. And that was tough, right? Because, my parents and I were all of us were, planning on me going to school and doing a dual degree and everything else. And then coming to them and saying, hey, this is, I think, what I really want. And they never even batted an eye. It wasn't like no, you should be going toward medicine because, and I know that's a very real conversation for a lot of musicians. The parents aren't as supportive because what if it doesn't work out, right? Then what? Then what happens with your career? And at that time I was going to opera too. And my parents just looked at me and said, I think you should. I think you have something. I think you should go for music. And that was it. There were no second guesses, nothing. And same with my extended family too. And my brother as well. My brother's not a music guy at all. Bless him, but it's not his thing. He's an IB guy and a baseball player. But I tell you what, any given time, if I say, hey, you know, Rob, sit down, listen to the song that I just wrote. What do you think of it? And he'll just immediately sit down, drop what he's doing and give that honest opinion. And it's a certain level of belief in me that I also have in my family members, which I can certainly get into as well. But it's, you know, it's a certain belief in each other and a support system that says, I'm not going to doubt you. I want to support you. Same thing happened when, you know, I've been studying opera now for 3 years and COVID hit, and I looked at my parents and I was like, I think I really love singing and I really love performing, but I think I only like opera and I think I might love making pop music. So what if we tried this? What if we just went for it for a little bit? And they said, okay, you know, this is another one. But what are you going to do about it? How are you going to go about making this a business? It wasn't a question of are you or aren't you? It was just, if you want to do this, how and how can we support you? And when you look at that, I think I wake up every single day invigorated, because no matter what happens in life, if I have a career, if I end up having friends or not having friends, in the end, as long as I have my family behind me, that's what really matters. They're the people that'll always be there. And so you look at how, for me, like how my family supported me and been there for me and loved me for my whole life. I never feel alone or empty at any time, because I know that no matter what, all I gotta do is pick up a phone, or currently because of COVID, go downstairs, and they're right there. And that to me, they're everything. That's, yeah, my family's amazing. I love my family.
That's incredible. So you're living at home right now. Is that pretty taxing on you, or do you find ways to get along, or is it difficult for you to like find time to write or to record or anything like that?
Sure. So it's different, right? I mean, as I was saying, I do love my family. They are my everything. But I'm also a 20-year-old college student living at home. We just moved to this city in Florida. We're living in Jacksonville right now. We just moved here at the start of the pandemic. So I have not a single friend for miles in the area. It's no high school friends or anything here. All my friends from college are up in Boston or elsewhere. And it's just me and my mom and dad. My brother's just finishing up his master's. So it was a very weird transition period. I will say that much. I was, living in Boston, doing my city girl thing at school with my friends, living life, being an opera singer. But what I will say is it's been a really nice way to kind of come back and like ground myself again and say, what do I really want to do and how am I going to spend my career? And I think that was really important. So that definitely transition wise there was definitely like a rocky month of, oh my gosh, the world's ending, COVID hit, I have to go home, and I'm going home and I don't have a single friend for miles. And that was tough. But my parents honestly have made the situation the best it possibly could be. They're so kind in how they respect the space of, I used to be a college kid living on my own and now I'm here and everything else. And we just kind of found ways to spend time together that have been really nice as well. But what I will say is, in terms of writing and recording and everything else, I actually record in Nashville. So whenever I record, I'll go up to Nashville for a weekend. My parents will come with me and they go off and they have fun in Nashville. I tell them, I'm like, go do your thing, have fun, tell me how Nashville is, and I'm going to work. And so the weekend consists of like, wake up, go to a write, wake up, go to a studio, record for hours, record, as late as you can, and then basically head home, sleep, and then wake up and do it again. And as for writes, actually, the reason I have to stop here in a while, but is I have a write on Zoom. So I do all of my writes on Zoom. And during those times, I basically tell them like, I'll see you all later. I'm going upstairs into my little writing dungeon and I'm going to sit up here and I hop on a Zoom call with some other writers and we crank them out that way. But they've honestly made the transition the best it could have been. I got very fortunate in that situation.
Absolutely. And let's say I have never written a song before, which I haven't. I've written like some poetry and stuff like that. Like I used to do like what's called slam poetry. Then all of a sudden, a few years ago, I hit writer's block, and I still have that writer's block to this day. I cannot, no matter what, I cannot just. I don't know if you've ever had writer's block before, but it kind of sucks. And what is some piece of advice that you would have in terms of crafting a song, like writing the lyrics and stuff? Because I assume you write your own lyrics, right?
Right.
Okay.
So I have a writing team, and what we do is basically every time we hop on a call, different people like to start songs different ways, right? Some people start with essentially a poem, and they work from that. Other people start with chords, whatever else. I kind of attack both from the same angle. A lot of times we'll start with the chorus of the song and everybody's humming different melodies that they're hearing, whatever else. I think the best things I found is to find a story. And what I'll do is before I ever head into a write, I'll talk about a story that moves me. So be it for drinking games. I was like, yeah, I'm so sick of hearing about people that want drunken hookups all the time. And I've dealt with guys that'll only contact at a certain time of night when they've had a certain number of beers. And I'm like, no, please, no, stop. And it gets really aggravating, especially for somebody like myself that wants real relationships, and a lot of college culture promotes the opposite of that. So it can get frustrating at times. And I went in and I was talking to my team about that and everything else. And all of a sudden the words just kind of started flowing. It was like, what if we wrote, one of my writers had the idea of drinking games and everything else. And so I actually wasn't able to be on the initial call for it. So I had talked to them about the story and everything. So what do you guys think? And they all were writing at a different time, and they started and they called me and they were like, you got to hear this. I think we wrote the song. I think we got it. So they started the song and then they brought me in and I finished with them the rest of the song from there, which is pretty cool. But I think it has to start with a story, right? You got to find something that really has meaning and depth to you. And for me, the best thing that I have found for my own writing is I just talk it out. And you'll find that when you keep looping back to certain phrases to talk about something,
okay,
will be born out of that. Because I kept saying it's only when he's drinking and he keeps playing games, and all of a sudden my writer's like, what if we did a play on the word drinking games? That would be so fun. It's just different things like that. I feel like You had its own story. Love Country had its own story as well. They all do. And Made for Me, actually, the title was pitched to me by Drea Gordon, who's the writer. It's me, Drea Gordon, and Brian Ruby on that song. And she asked me once, she said, so tell me about yourself, tell me what high school is like. And I'm like, oh, high school, well, why don't we unhash that another time, Drea? And so we got talking about it, and she said, oh, so you're a floater. I was like, what do you mean a floater? And she goes, well, I mean, you have friendly people, you have acquaintances per se, but you're not necessarily in one group. You just kind of float. You're friends with everybody, but not super close friends with anybody. I'm like, yeah, that's it.
That's how I was in high school.
Yep. And I think it's because certain people are more independent than others, right? I wasn't somebody that necessarily wanted to fit in with one group or another, because there were certain things about every group that I was like, maybe not, right. I don't know. And it was great, but they were all good people. So I wanted to be friendly with them, but I liked different things about different groups of people. And I felt so much joy in experiencing that. And separating that as well. And so I was truly a floater. I mean, when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. And she said, I've thought of this working title, Made for Me. And actually the first verse of Made for Me is all quotes from people that I've heard throughout my life. Why can't you slow down? What if you burn out? The number of times I've been told, you're going to burn out. You got to stop doing so much stuff. You're going to burn out, or live a little. I remember a guy long ago that used to tell me, you shouldn't work so hard. Why are you working so hard? You just live a little. Life will be better if you just live a little. Not realizing that me doing what I do in my everyday life is me living. That's what I find exciting. And it really brings back that idea again of Made for Me. And so again, that's what I say, when you talk it out and you have these ideas that keep coming out, and I kept talking about all these things that people used to say to me, that's a great verse. Bring people in. They're like, what is she talking about with that?
Yeah.
I guess that was a very long-winded answer to your question. I apologize, but
Oh, that's quite all right. That's awesome. So where can like people find your music and stuff, like naturally Spotify and stuff, but how do they find you? Because Cassandra is, I'll be honest with you, I did a Spotify search. It's a little bit difficult to find.
Right.
So
it's so finding Cassandra is definitely tough. If you want to hear my music, the best thing to do honestly is to type in my name with one of my song names. I'm working as hard as I can to try to get my follower count up, and this way people will start seeing it when they first search Cassandra. So if people do look me up and want to hit that follow button, that will certainly help that. But I'm on all platforms. If you look up, my latest EP is called Made for Me. If you look up Made for Me Cassandra, that should bring it up. My YouTube channel is Cassandra Official Music, and I have all of my work on there as well. SoundCloud, I'm on SoundCloud as well. It's being a smaller indie artist. I knew that choosing just my birth name, Cassandra, was going to be tricky. Granted, the name just kind of felt right when I chose it. I was like, I think this is the one to go with. I think that's the way to do it. So I did go with that. It is tough, though, I will say, to break through that barrier of search results. So we'll see. Hopefully in time, I will be higher up on the...
Yeah, and I don't think we have anything to worry about that because you have a lot of potential in your music. And like I first got introduced to you through drinking games, and that was probably 3 months ago when we first interviewed. And how have you grown as a person and as an artist? What are a couple of things that you've learned, whether it's creating content on your Instagram? Do you have a TikTok, by the way?
Yes, I just hit 11K recently. I'm very excited.
Nice. And so just tell me, like, in terms of like content creating and all that stuff, what have you learned like about yourself? What have you learned about creating content?
Sure. So for reference, both of my socials for Instagram and TikTok and Facebook actually are at Cassandra, just like you would spell it out. But in terms of what I've learned from creating content, it's been quite a journey, honestly, of learning. And I do a lot of study of social media and trying to figure out what do people want to see, what's trending, what do people enjoy watching. I think the biggest thing I've learned about myself through all of it, though, is that being in social media can be extremely taxing if you're not being authentic. And I think that's not that it can't be taxing, period. But I think there was a period of time in which when I first started social media, I was like, well, this is what everybody else is doing, so I guess that's what I should be doing too. And I started posting things that I was okay with, never uncomfortable with, but that weren't necessarily me. And it didn't feel really real. And all of a sudden I kind of cold turkeyed both of my accounts, waited a couple of months, started thinking, what do I actually want to do with this and why? And then when I realized that I wanted to start promoting things like real relationships, being happy, but promoting self-actualization. So the process of trying to find things to promote being a happier and healthier self in every form, be it physical, mental, emotional health and happiness. And on top of that, just finding a place for people to come in and hear my music and share my stories. I think I have so many stories about my life. I've lived all over the East Coast. And I've learned so many things from all these different places that the stories I've been able to share on social media, I'm uncovering things about myself just by talking through the stories on my own social media. And it spurs this creativity for content, for music creation, everything that I never realized I'd be able to find in that. So it's been an exciting journey, at times difficult. I post 45 TikToks a week, which is a lot.
It sure is.
A lot of TikToks. But it's a lot of creative energy. I definitely learned that it is a-okay to bulk create them on one day and then post them throughout the week. That has been a lifesaver, honestly, just because creating every day can be a little exhausting. But I think, it's a couple of things I learned about myself is that I really love what I'm doing right now. And I'm really grateful that I took this plunge, because I don't know if I ever would have had the courage had I not just stopped myself in my tracks and said, what do you actually want to do in your life? What do you want to go for? And second, in terms of content creation, I think I learned that there's a lot of good and bad out there on social media. In
I agree.
sections, in the content you see and post, it's all there. And what you choose to focus on can serve you or hurt you. And I think that is so important for anybody looking at, media at all. You just really have to learn what to block out and what to take in and how to fuel yourself so that you continue to have that positive creative energy as you go about it. It's a growing learning process, but I'm excited to be on it. So
Yeah, definitely. And that's just kind of one thing I've been thinking about on my end is just instead of just like, hey, check out this link. I mean, I'm going to talk about like mental health moments in song on why this song means so much to me and all that, because as you know, I'm a mental health advocate. I volunteer for National Suicide Prevention. I'm a special education teacher by day. So it's like therefore I'm going to bring about my career in terms of what I'm going to be talking and why I'm going to be talking about that, because that's going to establish credibility. So kind of, could I share like some song lyrics with you? And It's from a different band. I mostly listen to hard rock music. It has this reverse psychology effect on me because it sounds like really angry and stuff. And the song is Deliverance by Ego Kill Talent. And I'm just going to share with you the first couple lines. And I just want to kind of get your reaction and see what you think of the lyrics and what comes to mind.
Okay.
It goes like this. Hey, life, I've survived you as I watch my own disaster.
Gosh, that one hits hard.
I was at work today listening to this song and I don't know what happened. I just started crying at work.
Oh.
Like I was in between kids because I pull out kids to help with their like reading, writing, math, and behaviors. And I was like, oh my gosh, why am I crying?
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah. So my immediate response is I feel like it can affect so many people in different ways, right? Hey, life, I've survived you while watching my own disaster, right? Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, my immediate reaction to that is as introspective as that line can become, there's a certain amount of joy and perseverance, right? Because it's that idea of you're learning from your mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's mistake free, no matter how much they might try to portray that. And I think looking at, a quote like that, it's an interesting thing because you look at anybody's life, for instance, where I am right now, I'm doing what I'm doing because I dug myself out of this feeling that I had to do a certain career, be a certain way, act a certain way. I'm a very energetic person. I'm a very bubbly person. Most people look at me and go, how on earth is she happy all the time? Nobody's happy all the time. It doesn't even make sense. And to an extent, I say, sorry, like I just kind of am. I don't know. I'm not somebody who sits around super upset all the time. I got lucky like that. Great. But it's also come with a lot of channeling certain things, right? Like high school wasn't always easy. A lot of people saw how, upbeat I was and thought that it was fake. And it wasn't. I just didn't necessarily feel the need to lash out at people if they wronged me. I just kind of let it roll off. But you look at things where you have a problem that occurs in your life and you can either dwell on it or you can look back on it and learn from it. And I think I look back, be it high school, be it past, relationships, whatever, or even just something like COVID-19 striking and feeling like the entire performance world shut down. And I didn't know if I was going to have a career, if it'd be possible to go into my wanted career. My school also shut down cross registration I was taking courses at Tufts University in biochemistry. They shut that down because they didn't want any cross contamination of campuses. So I had no way to continue any studies in the medical field. And it was pretty glum for a while, just looking at, what on earth am I going to do? Can I even sustain a career? Do I have a career? And the upset that comes with that too, right? And so I think looking at that time of life and and that's a long span. I mean, I'm talking probably 4 years and then COVID really put it all in a head.
Absolutely did.
it, it teaches you so much. And there was a part of me that wanted to just kind of hole up and be like, okay, I guess I lost my streak of being happy, and I guess we're just going to kind of deal with whatever we're dealing with right now. But I didn't. And I think that's where I survived you, even though I'm looking at everything that happened back then, and it was terrible while I was in it. And that's the thing. I remember my mom used to always say to me, like, don't worry about stuff that happens right now, because you're not going to care in 10 years. You're not even going to remember that it happened in 10 years. And I would always go, oh my gosh, high schoolers, right? Like, you don't understand. It's the worst thing ever, because right then it was the worst thing ever. And that's okay. I think looking back and realizing, being gentle with yourself when there are downfalls, mistakes, whatever it might be, looking back and saying, it's okay, that happened. And at that time, that was a really, really, really big deal. But you can either dwell in it forever and let it haunt you for the rest of your life, or you can grow from it and you can move on from it. And you can say, what happened in that situation I can learn from, and how can I change and evolve and become a better version of myself, taking what I learned. Be grateful for that mistake, because it's going to propel you further than you would have if you didn't have that mistake. And that was a tough lesson to learn, but it definitely has been a huge part of my development actually over the past year, and throughout my songwriting. Right. I mean, as I've been writing music, I think I've learned about myself more than I ever would have, because I'm forcing myself to bring up these things that have been past, traumas might seem intense for some of the things I'm even talking about, but past turmoil, whatever. And to go back and force myself, not just to think about those situations, but think of what happened, why did it happen, how can I learn from it, and how can I grow from it. That's 4 songs at least right there for every situation that's ever happened. That to me, I think, is empowering. And that's where I come back to that quote from the song, and I say, as much as it's introspective and saddening, I also find it exciting and empowering at the same time.
Yeah, because actually the song's called Deliverance, and basically, like, in the bridge they go, I survived you, and obviously he's the guy, they're out of Brazil, called Ego Kill Talent, and they just sang it so beautifully, and it's just so amazing how, like, a song can hit us right in that moment when we needed to hear it the most. And I didn't know what compelled me to turn it on. I was just, hey, I'm just gonna check out this song. And yeah. Have you ever had moments like that where, like, a song absolutely just hit you, like, right the moment you needed to hear it?
Oh yeah, there have been times, what do they say, it's like when you finish a breakup and you hop in the car and turn on the radio and your song's playing on the radio. You're like, no, not now. Why? It's the same sort of thing.
I can relate.
It's that one always hurts. Yeah, I feel like there's so many times when I've heard a song and it just hit me in the gut, and it might not even be a song you really think about. It's funny. There's Ariana Grande song called Better Off, and it was on her Spreaker album. And it's a song, it's like really far down on the album. I hadn't honestly gotten to that one that often in my listening to the album. Okay. And she's basically saying that, she's better off being on her own because she's on the road a lot. And maybe I'm better off just like not being around somebody. And there was definitely a small period of time when I felt like, I'm so busy and my life's so busy. I don't know if I have room for anybody else in it. That I just kind of wanted to put up a little bit of a wall and like focus on developing me for a little bit, right? I mean, and I feel like everybody's been through that at some point where they're like, I need a little bit of space and I need to just kind of figure out what I want to do. And it was during this time of transitioning through COVID and transitioning through my songwriting process, and also not knowing, am I going back to school? Am I going to move to Nashville? I had no idea what my life was going to look like, the next month, much less the next day. And so that feeling of kind of doing that. And I remember I was sitting in my room and I was, the room cleaning playlist, right? So I had on her Sweetener album and that song came on and I was like, I've never listened to it like this and felt it, but it just hit me right in my core. And luckily I'm fully out of that now. And I'm very much like, excited and happy. And I feel like I know what I want to do now. But absolutely. And I think it's amazing that music can grab you like that, right? There's certain times something can just knock you off your feet. And another time when you hear it and you're like, yeah, I love that song. It's a great song. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
let's say, just kind of a fun question for you, just something I literally just thought of now, and then we'll get back to the Better Off. I was pulling up the song lyrics while you were talking about it, and let's say Ariana Grande happened to jump on this podcast and she asked you to open for her. How would you react?
I don't even know what I would do. I think I'd actually just like jump directly through the ceiling, like an eject button on my chair. What I love about her music is how she portrays emotion. I think she does it better than anybody right now in the pop game, not to mention the vocals and the whole whistle register thing, which I love. I'm a coloratura soprano. So when I hear people go off into the...
You're a what soprano?
A coloratura soprano. So we do all the super high, super light, fast stuff that goes into the whistle register.
Oh, I was just going to say that.
That's my operatic voice part, but it leads to a whole lot of like whistle registers, everything else, my music. So I've always
like actually whistling while you sing?
No, it just goes into the super like squeaky toy sort of register.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, how do you whistle while you sing?
Oh, no. Actually, I'm a horrible whistler. I'm so bad at whistling. It's not even funny. It's like my worst thing, I think. It's sad. Anyways, what I love about her, though, is that she utilizes her voice and she fills the production on her tracks so well with her voice. And on top of that, she knows how to use emotions to really grab the people that she's speaking to and yet tell her story at the same time. She's the pop queen for the reason, right?
Yeah, she's fantastic. So
I would be ecstatic. I don't even know what I would do, to be honest. That's a dream come true right there. I'd be honored to say the least.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess the song lyric that hit you. It's like broken up into verses, obviously. But to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if it's a verse, bridge, or chorus. So I'm just gonna roll with it. It's a third part. It says, steering clear of any headaches to start. And if we're being honest, I'd rather your body than half of your heart, or jealous-ridden comments.
Sure. I feel like that line, that last little line of our jealous-ridden comments, I have had so many times when, I'm a very ambitious person and I'm very, as I said, happy and bubbly. A lot of people are attracted to that. See me, I'm very outgoing, I'm social, but they don't realize the back work that goes into that and the amount of grinding through day after day of working up and the resilience and everything else. And that's not to make it sound like, oh my God, my life's so hard. It's a reality of I couldn't do anything I'm doing right now if I didn't work hard. And Absolutely. I think a lot of people they kind of think I just like woke up and started singing one day. They don't see the, practice sessions and the years. I've been singing now for 10 years. And I've, between people that have friends or whatever's that have these comments, or being in a relationship with somebody that seemed to really appreciate and respect what I did and how I did it, and then realize the amount of work it took. And the fact that, I've had situations where you're seeing somebody and I have to have a meeting and there are other people in the meeting and the person's jealous of the fact that there's other people in the meeting. It's like, well, that's not healthy. What do you mean? I can't go do my career because we're dating? That doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Or whatever else. And I think I've just dealt with that so many times. Be it that there's some real interesting guys I've met that think that because I'm a woman, I shouldn't be doing that. Or some people that just think that they have a right to tell me what to do, when to do something, where to go, how to look, whatever. And it can be so suffocating, I think. And so that line, the steering clear of any headaches to start, and I don't want any jealous-ridden comments. It's like, yes, exactly. I don't even want to get into something right now because I want to work on me. I don't want anybody trying to dictate my life as I'm trying to figure out my own life. I just need to focus on myself right now. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That line, every time I hear it, I'm like, yes, please stop with the jealous comments. I'm so sick of the jealousy in relationships. It's not healthy. Oh, yeah.
I hear you. And I'm speaking as a privileged white male, for lack of a better term. I can't imagine what women have to go through, in terms of like you have to be this way, the sexist comments, and all that stuff. So what can like people like myself, a white male, what can we do to like further empower women?
Sure. Okay, so I feel like I have
I know it's a heavy question, but
no. It's I'm just trying to think through how I want to word this. Yeah, I think first off, it starts from, how do I want to word this? It's got to be empowerment on both sides, right? I mean, there has to be a desire for everybody, no matter who you are, to want to empower everybody around you. I think for me, what I know is, I had a good guy friend of me once tell me, like, I love how much you're a feminist. And I was like, like, I mean, I guess, sure, like, whatever, but I don't often comment on it heavily. I am very much just empowering to everybody, and that's kind of my spiel. And I looked at him and I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, because you just don't care that you're a woman. He said it differently with some colored languages throughout it. He was like, you don't give anything that you're a woman. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, have you ever once stopped before you did something and said, well, I don't know if I could do that because I'm a girl? And I was like, of course not. Why would I? He's like, exactly. Stop. Like, I wish people understood that if they just stopped assigning genders to things and making that the issue, right? Like, why is there a comment of, this is the best woman CEO of a company? When we stop doing that and just say, yeah, she's just CEO because she's smart, she's a boss, she got the job because she earned the role, she earned that. It's to stop treating it differently. Right. Somebody has the credentials, give them the honor of their credentials. If they don't, they don't. And I think that's the biggest lesson of the book. When you stop assigning that, it becomes less of an issue. I was raised in a manner that, I never thought of myself as like just a girl, or like that's just a guy's thing. And I have a brother. He did his sports, I played my sports. I had dolls that, honestly, I was never really into dolls. That was a different story, but, but I had them, and I loved dressing up and playing, dress up and everything else. And he had his things that he wanted, but it was never a matter of like, you can't go do that. It was just, what do you want to do? What do you gravitate toward? And as I grew up, it was never a, oh, be careful because you can't do that because you're just a girl. I don't know if you're going to win that competition because you're just a girl. It's like, it doesn't matter. You're just doing what you're doing because you love it, and you're going to empower other people because you're empowered by yourself. And I think when everybody starts to take that upon themselves, it'll stop being a matter of, I have to empower somebody else. It'll just be everybody's empowered within themselves, and it'll be a much more mutually beneficial system, I think, in the end. So it's kind of a backwards answer to the question, I guess, of how can you do a specific thing, but it's by, I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a complicated issue, and I just know that if we treat one another better, and like you said, based upon each other's merits instead of, right, as you said, like the female CEO, it can start making things better. It can start bridging the gap for, I don't know if that, what I mean, like bridging people together, and I was going to say, what else would you like to add? Like any words they have in regards to EP, who you are. And by the way, I just followed you on TikTok during this, so.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I saw my phone flash and I was like, oh.
Yep. That was me following you on TikTok. So
awesome. Well, thank you. Honestly, my final closing words to anybody listening is, it comes down to a few things for me in terms of my EP, who I am as a person. And I think, Made for Me was genuinely made for me, right? I'm an opera singer, had the whole COVID thing happen, which we've said a few times now on the podcast, so I won't go through it all again, but it's, it was tough, but I wanted to start doing pop music. And I literally blind walked into a studio one day and said, hey, I want to record. Do you want to write music together? And I wrote my first song. That's how I dropped Wicked Ways. And then I ended up linking with a team in Nashville and started traveling to Nashville, and it happened. Granted, I definitely had things that went right. My family was supportive. They took me to Nashville. I've been very fortunate in that regard. But the biggest thing for anybody that wants to create a better life for themselves, create a better situation for themselves, is make sure that you're doing things, everything that you can, to push for that. Open your own doors. A quote that I say in pretty much every single interview now, because I think it really resonates with who I am as a person, is doors open and close all the time, but if you're never looking for a door, you won't see one. And I think that's so true. If you're not trying to find ways to become a better version of you, become a happier version of you, it's not going to happen. But if you really look inward and say, how can I make me happier? How can I make me better? And take action to go do that. Life becomes so much freer and sweeter so quickly. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken from the process of creating my EP, as well as the main message and Made for Me. So
Couldn't have said it better myself, Cassandra. And the door is open anytime you want to return to the podcast and just continue this discussion. And thank you so much. And I'm going to let you go so you can do what you need to do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maddie. This was really fun.
Absolutely. It was a blast. What was that?
You. I really appreciate you having me here. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And you take care.
You as well. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.